So we are back for the Kovacs Report comic book review show with, as ever, Jimmy X. I whispered it.
Oh, yes.
I whispered it. So
Hey,
we get
Angelo.
straight into it. Have a good week? Good week?
Yeah, there's really great books this week.
I hope so. I've got a surprise for you going through my books this week. So spoiler show, read them if you got them. We're going to spoil them. So make sure you know what's going on because we're going to tell you. And we're going to start this week with a book I recommended to you a while back, Into the Unbeing. Still good?
Yeah, Into the Unbeing, Part 1, Issue 4, published by Dark Horse, written by Zach Thompson, with art and cover art there by Hayden Sherman. So in the year 2034, a group of climate change scientists in the Scientific Institute of Nation Ecology and Worlds, or SINU, lost inside the corpse of a giant creature of unknown origin. Although currently in Australia, they found the body of a long-dead explorer who disappeared in Nepal decades before. One of the team's been told to kill the others by Sinew and cover up their findings. One of them disappeared the night before they entered the Unbeing, and one of them, last issue, was last seen plunging to her doom down the ravine and breaking her legs on impact.
Ouch.
So this issue follows the last scientist and her little dog too, the surveyor, Abby. So Zara and Abby look on stunned by what just happened. It's a swarm of, I'm going to call them meat crickets, because that's what they look like. They rise from the hole that Salvage disappeared into, rising above and being feasted on by an enormous fleshy pelican.
So when you say flesh pelicans, mate, my mind goes somewhere else.
Enough said. As Zara goes to shoot them, Abby stops her, saying, "Don't be barbaric. No sense in disturbing the natural order of things." And Abby calls into the hole, "Salva, how far did you fall?" Salva answers. She's lying in a green pool of acidic-looking liquid. "About 4 stories. Hurry, it's starting to dissolve my boots." Abby rappels down into the pit, discovering when she reaches the bottom that the acid has now dissolved Salva's feet from the ankle down. Zara tries to pull them back up, but slips in the muck, and all 3 of them slide down a long aquatic network of tunnels that resemble a large intestine. Abby's narration tells us, "Everything stings, an awful sour, sickening odour leaks into me." Zara asks, "Were we just digested?" And after they've cleaned themselves up, they discover that Salva's legs, broken by the fall, have healed themselves, but into stumps. Yeah. Abby's dog then digs up something from the floor, which turns out to be the journal of their missing team leader, Hilda, who vanished before the 3 entered the corpse. Exhausted by carrying their teammate, they set up camp again. Salva babbles she can still feel her feet as she drifts off to sleep, burning and fighting an infection. And the others discuss the bizarro state she's in, considering her legs were dissolved, picked clean, and then sealed back up again. Flashback time, which is a hallmark of this series, and we learn that Abby, in her younger days, was a victim of a huge flood, spurring her to join Sinew. And Sinew were painted not in a positive light here, as eco-terrorists, taking over coal mines, turning a Canadian oil refinery to scrap. So waking up back in the present, she finds traces of what she thinks could be a water source, telling Zara to take the dog and get a head start. When Salva awakes, Abby is in her tent to offer her water, telling her, "You've got 3 days of food and water here. Don't trivialize it. We're going to need the tarp." Salva attacks her, but Abby threatens her with a knife and abandons her as Salva screams after her, calling her a monster. The dog starts barking and runs off. And when Zara catches up with him, she discovers an unearthly squat orange humanoid creature who pets the dog happily, saying, "Suppose you're looking for thy Fran, huh? Follow her. He's just over yonder." Because he's a hobbit in my mind. To her shock, Zara comes face to face with her missing team leader, Hilda, the one who disappeared before they even entered the Unbeing. She calmly tells her she's adapted, made some new friends along the way, and charted a path back to the surface. And Zara is understandably stunned as she asks, "You know the way out?" And Into the Unbeing Part 1 ends. What an absolutely fantastic series this has been. They're taking a break for the 2nd volume. It comes back in February, I believe. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, Zach Thompson's doing an Alien Romulus one-shot for Marvel next month.
Worthwhile.
And Kelly Thompson's Absolute Wonder Woman has Hayden Sherman on art duties for it.
Ooh.
So lots to look forward to from this creative team. I wish him all the best. And I can't wait to read more of Into the Unbeing when it comes back next year.
So a thumbs up from Jim for his first book. Amazing. Right, moving on to Time Waits, which is from Distillery, who seem to be pumping out a lot of books from some big names. This one happens to be Chip Zdarsky and David Brothers doing the writing, and art by Marcus Tu and Marvin Saniper, I think. But I know.
Mm-hmm.
Time Waits. It's another time travel science fiction thriller, right? And how many of those have we had? They always go the same way. They're always terrible. But I thought, you know what? This has got Zdarsky on it, so maybe it might be different. Right, I'll get straight into it. So the story introduces us to Blue. He's a former time-traveling soldier who's left behind a life of violence to settle down in a quiet little rural town. His partner, Grace, is the local sheriff, and the couple are working hard to adopt Duke, who's a bright but introverted foster child who has an addiction to podcasts and Chainsaw Man. So he gets points from me on for those. So the first half of the issue is very, very tone setting. It's very sort of slow burn, and it intersperses flashbacks and what's going on with like each level, and it's really, 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 really well done. So Blue's kind of wrestling with the demons of his past. So he's taken up gardening. He's even trying to bake a cake for Grace at his friend's bakery because it's their anniversary. So we see the couple's attempts to build a peaceful life, but Blue's past or future, as the case may be, it begins to resurface. So his experiences in the past have led to him having these debilitating headaches and flashbacks. As a result, I guess the combat or whatever trauma he went through beforehand, which we don't know yet. And they're sewn throughout the book really effectively. It's really well done. So 2 stories in the future, but the future is actually Blue's past, right?
Okay.
And our present is our present. I know. I think you got it right. So he's come back in time to get away from his past. Right. So the future past story is a classic tale of like, he's on this weird team, right? And the team leader is a complete bastard, has no morals, little respect for human life. It's one of those kind of, gung-ho SWAT team type things. And they're on this mission, and they're going to this place called Diner Grove to retrieve some seeds of some importance. And we don't know why these seeds are important, but they're going in there and they're going to take them. So as they go through the building, they realize that the security guards are kind of well trained and actually possibly military, which means what is going on here? Why would a crop growing seed company have so highly trained and armed bodyguards? Now, Blue would rather not kill them. He's one of those guys that if you don't have to die, you don't have to die, right? But his team leader is just indiscriminate, and he's not leaving any of them alive. He's a bit of a prick. Anyway, during the mission, they acquire the seeds, and the team leader and Blue start a little fight over potentially killing an innocent scientist, right? Blue's like, you don't need to kill him. You've got what you want. Let's go. But he's like, no, leave no witnesses. I'm a badass. So they have this huge fight, which is quite intense. And near the end of the fight, Blue presses a button on the guy's harness of his combat vest or whatever, and he vanishes in this electric blue flash. And after the fight, we see Grace tending to his wounds outside the building as she's one of the local cops who turns up to investigate what's going on in this building, which is now completely on fire, right? So that's how they first meet. Anyway, Grace, her story is told in parallel. She's spending the day with Duke, right? The foster child that they want to adopt, and she's getting to know him. And they play. They go somewhere where there's some dirt mounds. They can BMX. She buys them some comics, some tacos. And you can tell that she would be a real loving mother, right? And after that day of fun, they head home to make an evening meal for Blue. As I mentioned earlier, Blue, he's out with his baker friend trying to make this anniversary cake to surprise Grace because he's not a cook, so it'd be like surprise. But while he's there, he has these flashbacks and he passes out. And when he wakes up, his friend, the baker, who's also called Mr. Baker, his second name is Baker, he says, some guy came in, someone from your past, but I didn't know if I should, let him know what's going on. So I sent him on his way. So Blue starts freaking out. He's thinking, uh-oh, my past has found me. So he races out of the bakery trying to get home to see if Grace is safe. He's ringing, no answer. He's panicking. And when he gets there, he finds his old team leader with another female agent holding his wife and the little kid Duke at gunpoint. Now, Grace isn't a shrinking violet either. She managed to free herself from a bond and attacks the female agent as Blue takes on his old team leader, right? And after a big fight scene, Blue puts him through a glass coffee table and presumably kills him as Grace takes her police baton and smashes the female agent's skull in. Like, she is going for it. She is not fucking around. But before she could do anything, or while that's happening, the woman just vanishes in an electric blue flash. Like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Anyway, they decided probably have to get the fuck out of there. And he lets Duke in a bit of the truth that he's a time traveler and they've got to get out of there. They're in trouble. His past is coming. As the baker turns up to say, "Oh, your cake sold, by the way." And this is the bit is a bit weird. He said, "Oh, and I came to give you your cut of the money." He said, "But I tried ringing you, but there was no answer. I thought I'd come round." And the guy who bought it, he said he was out of time and anything would do, and intimated that he was a friend of yours. So trouble's coming. So now we jump to the organization behind all this team of bad boys that Blue used to be part of, as the dead female agent beams in, right? The one that Grace fought. They say that we've got DNA samples of whoever did it, so they're going to try and figure out who killed her, meaning Grace. And then we transition to the CEO of the company, his office, sipping whiskey, doing that sort of inner monologue, saying, "Blue, I knew you were a killer." So there's good and bad about this. I really enjoyed it, actually. It's really fast-paced. Everything's really good. Art's great. It avoids that sort of overwhelming us with complex time travel mechanics and just focus on the character development, the emotional stakes, and the idea of fate being inevitable, right? So that's what makes it really good. Like I said, the art captures everything, the human aspects, really, really good. There's like subtle differences depending on which timeline or flashback you're seeing in the art, which makes it really, really clear what's going on. All in all, really enjoyable, relatable characters. The time travel element being secondary made the book really good. My only gripe was, if you're going to have a time traveling device on you, right? Why is it a button on your harness that you can accidentally knock or someone can press? It seemed really stupid. Now, if they explained it away, said, "Oh, it's fingerprinted or it's DNA activated," it would make sense. But like, if you're like a SWAT team doing bad shit, fighting one-on-one combat, why would you have a button that someone can press and you'll vanish? So I was like, that was the bit and the annoying baker just happens to turn up to move the plot along. Those are the two bits that really stood out as, oh, you have this thing which is almost perfect. You didn't need to do it. Other than that, I'll be honest, it's a definite recommend from me. Yeah, so a good number one. Right, moving on. Turtles. We jumped ahead there almost to another book. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 2. Yeah, spoiler.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 2, published by IDW, written by Jason Aaron, with art and cover art there by Raphael Albuquerque. 2 months ago, the relaunch issue of TMNT, penned by Aaron with gorgeous art by Joel Jones, wowed both Angelo and myself and gained the book of the week from me. Telling a neatly self-contained story featuring Raphael trapped in a human jail. After a month's delay, we are back.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I read this as well. It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, the Turtles are still scattered after the death of Splinter. And as we learned last time, the Foot Clan have returned to target them. And this time the focus is on party dude Michelangelo. So we start with Michelangelo's theme tune. So this is my interpretation of it. Go, go, extreme, green ninja team, from a sewer full of freedom with your shell of fury, party dude supreme. You're the pizza master, super mutant turtle power, go.
I'm really sorry, guys. Please don't unsubscribe. But well done, Jim. Well done.
Yes, from Aaron's pen to my lips. Here we go. So this is intercut with scenes of Mike on a bike fighting ninjas, hang gliding, fighting a kaiju, and surfing with his nunchucks.
I love it already.
So we start with Mikey clocking a ninja in the face with his nunchucks before pulling back to reveal it's actually a stuntman on a film set, and his weapons a phone robber. We get more Frank Miller style in a monologue with Mike explaining, when you first start trying to master nunchaku, you're guaranteed to clock yourself in the face, elbow, knee, and any other place you'd rather not be clonked by a piece of flying wood. But if you can't take it, you'll never get to the point where you can clonk someone else. And that's the secret. You've got to be able to beat the crap out of yourself every day. And me, I'm a master of that. So we see that Mike is now a TV star in Japan, and And he explains it's been that way for the last 6 months. He's the toast of Tokyo, the star of Japan's hottest new television show, spending his days hitting fake ninjas with rubber weapons and his nights being wined and dined across the city by the finest restaurants and chefs. He feels alone. He feels adored, but also alone at the same time, pining for those simple days where he ate pizza in the sewers with his brothers. He said he used to sneak out after dinner and look for trouble, but he never found it as the Foot Clan ceased their hostilities for over a year. So now he just spends his evenings chilling in his penthouse apartment, watching old kung fu movies and eating frozen pizza, wondering how he got so damn old.
Yeah, don't we all?
He's a teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, don't forget.
Teenage middle-aged turtle at this point, right?
Until he's rudely awakened by blinding lights and attacked by a load of Foot Clan ninjas in his own home. He leaps to action with his kitschy battle cry of "Super Mutant Powered Ninja Go!" But he's so out of practice at fighting for his life, the Foot Clan beat him mercilessly all around the apartment, smashing his TV and other furnishings. Mike starts to realise that he's been drugged, and they poisoned the pizza. A new low, he says, and he starts to hallucinate his brothers, berating him for the lifestyle choices, telling him that he's brought shame on their clan Hamato. He joins them, berating himself, saying he's a master of nunchucks and taking a beating, and he looks up online articles about himself and reads the comments. 10 million people a week watch his show, and it's still not enough to fill the hole inside. He punches himself in the gut, making himself vomit and ridding himself of the voices in his head. With his head clearer now, he reaches for his prized diamond-encrusted nunchucks, donning his shades and impressively attacks them, fighting for his life and holding his own until he hears someone shout, "Mikey!" It's Raphael, and he's fresh from escaping prison assassination last issue. But shockingly, Mike is not pleased to see him, attacking him as the Foot Clan close in, and this issue comes to its conclusion. This was easily as good as the first issue. And next issue, we're catching up with Leonardo before we finally catch up with Donatello. And if you remember Ninja Turtle Alpha, Donatello is not in a good place. He's in a mutant zoo. He's being beaten every day. Aaron's doing great stuff. Aaron's doing great stuff with this book, and
I wish I'd took my own advice now, Jim. I should have read them because I got them before I watched the show. Damn, it sounds really, really cool.
It's check it out, man. It's really, really good issue.
Yeah. So this show is full of mistakes this week. I've accidentally gone on to the next book early, but that doesn't matter because it's my turn to tell you how I think about this book. So I was going to review the Power Fantasy #2. Because the first one was absolutely first class. But I saw this little book slide in from Zach Kaplan from Mad Cave, Dark Empty Void. And I thought, you know what? That's intriguing. I might give it a go. So Zach Kaplan, like I said, writing the book, and art by Chris Sheehan. Dark Empty Void #1. Right, so there's a team of scientists, right? And they work for an organization called Mammoth. And they have discovered a black hole on Earth. They have built the most advanced particle collider to stabilize the black hole, and they're monitoring it, right? So they're keeping the black hole from going nuts, right? So they are containing it. Anyway, this particular day, the black hole flares, and we introduce the Coulson, right? He's one of the researchers, scientists on the team, and we meet him standing at the foot of the black hole, looking down at the ground because someone has come through the black hole. Ooh,
okay.
I know. I was hooked, mate. I was like, this sounds really good. So we are then immediately introduced to Dr. Joy Frank giving a lecture on depression, right? I think she's a psychologist, or she deals with, psychosis, psychology, the brain, people. And she's giving this class, this big lecture about how you deal with depression. So that she says, imagine that we are the candle and the flame is burning, and imagine putting a black box over it, right? So our way of dealing with depression is to try and burn through the black box, right? So it's a really interesting concept, right? And it plays a part later on. Anyway, as she finishes narrating this lecture to the students, we see her at home sitting on the floor, drowning her own depression with a big bottle of wine as she watches her old wedding video, which implies to me that it's a failed marriage and she's not quite over it, or I don't know because I wasn't quite sure what it meant. Is he dead? Is not? But anyway, the phone rings and it's Coulson, who we learn is actually her estranged husband. So he needs her help and he needs it now. He'll even sign the divorce papers if she helps out. So that whole scene twisted for me. I thought she was like suffering from the loss, but she's actually one that wants the divorce, but maybe she doesn't, right? So maybe there's a rekindling love story they're going to sew into this. Anyway. Right, okay. So she agrees, and she's quickly flown by private jet to the facility, which looks to be somewhere in the Arctic. Think of like the research base in The Thing, except bigger, right, with a black hole in it, and it's heavily guarded. So after signing an NDA and a sort of a bitter back and forth with Coulson, she's introduced to Nassim Rua, the head scientist, right? They explain that a female came through the black hole and is acting strangely, and they want her to meet her and find out if she's suffering from psychosis or the things that she's telling them are in fact true. So, as Joy, Coulson, Nassim, and some soldiers, like the security guards, enter the cell where the woman's being kept, the woman gets really agitated and gets violent, and she has to be restrained. So Joy pushes them all out. She says, "Get out, get out, get out." She pushes them out. She locks them out of the room. She tries this calmer one-on-one approach to see if she can get some answers to the who, what, and where of the situation. Right. So this woman, who for the sake of conversation is named Art. Right, she speaks as if she's more than one being, so she refers to herself as we, not I. A bit like Venom, right? Art is confused about her form, right, her human form, and addresses Joy by her full name, including her middle name, which how could she know? Anyway, she tells her that she must be returned to her world, or the world will collapse in decimation. And this surprises Joy. Obviously, it's not, you don't hear that every day, you know. It's like, this is really scary. And then Art leans into Joy and whispers something in her ear, which is inaudible to us, which seems to absolutely terrify. Anyway, we're back outside the cell, and Joy talks with Nassim and Coulson, right? They want to know if the stranger's crazy, but Joy says, listen, if I'm going to help you, I need to know more. I need to know what's going on. So they take her and they tell her about the black hole, right? And their investigation of this black hole has actually led to more questions than answers. And since Art's come through it, it's been changing. It's been growing and spewing out strange things, right? Even after they shut down the stabilizer, meaning it should then sort of evaporate into itself, into nothing, it's still this huge mass of swirling energy, right? They theorize it will soon start to grow in size and it will just basically consume the earth, right? So Joy needs to find out from Art really quickly, how the fuck do we stop it? Anyway, Joy suggests they take Art through the black hole, back to wherever she came from. But they've already lost 2 teams already, right? So they're really nervous about this. She insists, and Coulson says, like, why are you so adamant about this when we told you about like all the dangers? And she tells Art, she tells Coulson that Art told her things like her middle name, things from her lecture, things she couldn't possibly know, all right? She also mentioned, she said, I am a burning light, right? Which echoes what she said earlier. So she's basically saying, like, if you don't take me there, this thing is going to collapse around you, which I thought was really, really clever how they weave that back in. And that it isn't going to end well if they don't take her back really soon, right? So that's it. That's where it ends. So they've got them knowing what's going on. They've got this woman come through the thing. It's basically, if you don't do something soon, everything's going to blow up, right? I had zero hopes for this book, right? I had absolutely none. And I begrudgingly started reading it. And I was like, oh, I suppose I'll have to read this book. But after the second page, absolutely hooked. Great storyline, great characters, lovely art. As soon as I got to the end of the book, it had me pumped. I just wanted more. I think this could shape up to an absolute blinder. So, this week so far, that's 2 for 2. Yeah. So moving on to Transformers.
More than meets the eye.
Well, I hope so.
Transformers issue 12, published by Image and Skybound. Written and with cover art by Daniel Warren Johnson. Another fantastic cover by DWJ there. And Prime facing down Cybertron. Interior art by Jorge Corona, and I've got to give a shout out to the colorist as well, because the way this book pops is like no other understands. To Mike Spicer, who's inked all of Daniel Warren Johnson's work and continues to do so. So anyway, previously Optimus Prime led a rescue attempt to save fellow Autobots Jazz and Cliffjumper from the sadistic hands of Decepticon torturer Shockwave. While in the background, the Decepticons plan to convert the Earth into pure energon to revive their dying planet of Cybertron. This is an action-packed, really exciting issue of Transformers, bringing the second story arc of the book to a close. So we pick up in the wake of a shell-shocked warrior, Ultra Magnus, reeling at the sight of a Shockwave, who he suffered years of torment and abuse at the hands of, fleeing the battle, with Shockwave commanding 6 Constructicons to combine into the metal behemoth known as Devastator to attack the Autobots. Human ally and girlfriend of Spike, Jessie, bravely drives her van through the portal from Earth to Cybertron, sending it careening into the chest of Soundwave and freeing her friend, the hostage Cliffjumper, but knocking herself out in the process. Cliff manages to free Jessie, throwing her clear from the debris before Devastator's fist smashes through the van. It smashes it to bits, and he gets his arm caught and getting absolutely hammered by the Titan. Optimus Prime and Elita 1 attack him, with Prime blasting Devastator, and Elita is binding the giant's legs and tripping him up like an AT-AT in Empire Strikes Back, making him fall and devastate the harvesting device that's harvesting the Earth, stealing the Earth's energon. Wheeljack tells Prime that Cybertron's starting to be pulled back through the portal. Shockwave runs off to find more reinforcements. Prime is in hot pursuit behind him, refusing to leave Cliffjumper behind a second time. Prime blasts his way through the Combaticons with ease. Let's not forget he's still got Megatron's amazing arm cannon, as well as his own huge gun. Shockwave threatens Cliff as Optimus approaches, but boom! Shockwave's arm disintegrates with one shot. And Prime's not done. Angry about Shockwave's murder of Ratchet, his torture of Magnus, and Cliffjumper, yelling, "All you do is take away what's good." He beats Shockwave to the floor, and in a really uncharacteristic move, he crushes his head to dust. Like that scene in Game of Thrones where the Mountain gets Pedro Pascal's character, the Red Viper, and just smashes his head. It's like that. I was floored.
This is not your Saturday afternoon Optimus Prime, is it?
It's really not. His eyes glow pink while he's doing this as well. And to give you a bit of context, previously Prime had a near-death experience in the middle of the first arc. He was dead for all intents and purposes. And then Spike's father sacrificed himself, stepped into the creation matrix. And from that moment on, Prime's experienced Sparkplug's feelings. He's got paternal feelings for Spike, who's his son. He's got memories of Spike growing up as a baby.
So they've merged as well.
And obviously, Sparkplug is a Vietnam vet, so he knows all about violence. And we've seen a more nasty streak in Prime since Sparkplug was absorbed into the creation matrix. End of interlude.
I love it.
So he begins to. He basically regrets his actions immediately. He's like, "What have I done? What have I done?" Angering. He asks Elita 1, who's watching, and she says, "Welcome back to the war, Prime." They've got bad blood between them.
Yeah, sounds like
she blames him. She blames him for abandoning Cybertron. After starting a war, he abandoned Cybertron and went to Earth, and then the war just continued on Earth. So yeah, they're not on good terms. So she tells him Cybertron's returning to its place in the galaxy, and he must choose a planet. So Prime basically leaps off of Cybertron, burning up. He's basically angering Elita. In her eyes, he's abandoned his planet yet again, his countrymen yet again, and also he left Cliffjumper behind, so he's not doing great. So Cliffjumper is left on Cybertron, which has gone back to its place in the galaxy. He starts to burn up on re-entry to Earth's atmosphere before he's rescued by a surfing beachcomber, who, as Spike alluded to last issue, has managed to surf the wave all the way up to the portal that, because it's pulling all the sea creatures up into the air, and he's basically surfing that wave, and he manages to save Prime from smashing into the ocean. The issue ends with the portal finally closing, and it lops off a giant chunk of Cybertron in the process. And Prime's got his head in his hands, and he's saying to himself, "What have I done?"
I love it.
What an absolute roller coaster, relentless story arc that Daniel Warren Johnson
So is a piece of
has
Cybertron
crafted.
still in orbit then?
No, there's a piece of Cybertron that's lopped off and is now in the ocean. That basically it was falling into the ocean as the book
Oh,
ended.
right. So it's on Earth. So now they'll be fighting for control of that. That opens up loads of stories. That's great.
Yeah. So Daniel Warren Johnson, every month of this book is an absolute joy. Jorge Corona's interiors and Mike Spicer's colors complement it beautifully. Daniel Warren Johnson is on the book for 12 more issues after this. He can't do it anymore. He's burning himself out so young.
I bet.
And he said he ever puts 110% into everything he does. He doesn't know how to do any less, and it shows in every single page. Yeah, absolutely fantastic issue.
I guess that's a massive thumbs up from you, right? Amazing. So, from one beloved animation to my most beloved animation, Gatchaman 3 from Mad Cave, written by Cullen Bunn, and art by Chris Batista. So, Gatchaman 3 kicks off where issue 2 left off, right? Galacta have been kidnapping scientists, with their latest attempt being foiled by the Gatchaman, who've captured one of Galacta's all-female Devil Stars, right? They're a squad of deadly and elite assassins. So, the plan is for June, who's called Princess in the British version of this, right, is to pull a Leia and Chewbacca on Jabba the Hutt and pretend she is the Devil Star agent bringing in the captured scientists, right? So she can infiltrate the Galacta base and more than likely kick some asses into the middle of next week because she is a badass science ninja and rescue all the other kidnapped scientists, right? Can you tell she's my favourite? Yeah, she's my favourite. A clever ruse indeed. Now, June and the scientists, they board this, the enemy ship, which turns up to pick them up, right? And June makes her way to the flight deck where she almost gives herself away to another one of the Devil Star sisters. But her quick thinking enables her to turn herself out of trouble, and she activates a tracking device for the other Gatchaman to follow her. Back at Gatchaman HQ, Dr. Nambu, like that's their boss and mentor, he's approached by Mara. Now, she's from one of the backup teams. Now, this is something they've introduced new to the book, wasn't in the original series. Basically, she wants in, right? She seems to be a pain in the ass, and she's going to be one of those characters that causes some kind of trouble later on because they're building towards that, maybe even a potential traitor. But he says, look, the Gatchaman, that's the team. They're out there. You're here if something really bad happens to them and not before. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like getting her own way. Anyway, then we cut back to June, and the Devil Stars, they arrive at the Galactor Delta base, right, which is hidden like an active volcano, and they have to lower it. It's brilliant. Anyway, inside the base, one of the Devil Stars tricks June with some wordplay and exposes her, right? So June transmutes into her Gatchaman costume, right, and she starts making a run for it as the alarms go off. The rest of the time, the rest of that scene is so I'm getting so ahead of myself. I'm getting that excited feel about it.
I know the feeling, man.
Heartbeat going again.
I know the feeling.
Right. Yes. So the rest of the Devil Stars team, right? They've been alerted, right? And so she's running away from them. Now, along the way, she bumps into a whole squadron of Galactus goons, and she kicks the living shit out of them, right? Really, really kicks the living shit out of them, which is amazing, right? Until eventually, the two of the other Devil Stars, they turn up, and while she's escaping, they shoot June, and she gets clipped in the shoulder. Right. So we then jump to the other Devil Star, who informing Bird Cats. So that's the Galactor Force's leader, right? Via video call, that one of the Gatchamen is on the base, and she recommends moving all the kidnapped scientists because the other Gatchaman will no doubt likely be headed their way. He says, no need. He's sending the Blackbirds to take care of the problem, all right? And I'm going to present them with a moral dilemma. Ooh, and that moral dilemma, my friend, right, is to send one of their giant mechs into a heavily populated part of one of the main cities, right, and cause as much destruction as possible. Will they sacrifice the lives of the many to save June, or will they leave June to fend for herself and go save the many? Ooh, I'm thinking, what are they going to do? Anyway, Dr. Nambu makes that decision for them. He says, no. He says, my orders are to change course, go save the civilians. They come first. The Gatchamen are pissed off about this, right? They know it's a dirty Galacto trick, right? But one of the team members, he suggests they split up so they can handle both problems. Clever, right? Anyway, while they are deciding, though, whether or not that's a good idea, June radios in and tells them to leave her be, right? Go do the greater good. That's the right decision. She'll do what she was trained to do, and she will try and survive until they can get to her. Mate, I was like, my heart was going. I was like, oh my God. Oh, you know what? I'm getting really used to this 70s style storytelling that they've employed with this book, right? And I really, really love this issue. I think it's finally found its stride. And it was so much fun to read, right? It just fired off all those nostalgia neurons, pulled at the heartstrings. I got a little bit emotional with June's selfless speech near the end, urging them to do the right thing. So, like I say, thoroughly enjoyed it. Huge thumbs up for me. Before we get too weird, that was 3 recommends in a row. I think that's a comic book show first, mate.
I'm not sure both of us yet. Three recommends in a row.
Yeah, I know. Woo. Let's see if we can continue that trend. So I recommended you read this. I don't know why, but I did. Did I do you dirty? Did I do you dirty?
Avengers Assemble, issue 1, published by Marvel, written by Steve Orlando, with art by Corey Smith, and cover art there by Lionel Francis Hugh. Beautiful cover. So back in during Jed MacKay's Blood Hunt event, upon finding that the regular Avengers were otherwise occupied, Captain America Steve Rogers, the living legend of World War II, took it upon himself to assemble a team of reserve Avengers to deal with the threat of Brother Blood and a helicarrier filled with Nazi zombies. So we start this first issue, in Rügen, Germany, the scene of a massacre, an archaeological dig. A lot of archaeologists, which our antagonist calls the soft-chested thieves of history, have been slaughtered by Red Skull's daughter Sin, from Brubaker and Epstein's Captain America run. And she claims her prize, the holy death mask of Arida, goddess of hate. She dons it and is immediately engulfed in raw, flaming power. We cut to the classic Avengers mansion, with Captain America explaining to Jarvis the butler, who is still a thing in this day and age, apparently, that he's formed this emergency response team of Avengers to tackle any threats that the main team are not around for. Just like the reserve Avengers used to be, I guess. So. Jarvis muses, just like the old days, sir. And Steve chuckles at this before the first 3 team members enter, and that's Wasp, Photon, and Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. After warmly greeting them, they teleport across the globe to Rügen, Germany. Meanwhile, in nearby Straslin, Germany, Cap's old foes, the Serpent Society, are taking advantage of the chaos, looting the town, and they steal an ancient cask. Remember that. While the Avengers are tackling Sin, she's attacking the 4 of them, and her mask of hate is controlling the villagers to fight each other. So if you've seen Kingsman, you know what this is. And it starts to affect the Avengers too. They bicker between themselves. I mean, Whedon did it in the movie.
He did.
It's not a new thing. They bicker amongst themselves. Back in New York City, Hawkeye, Clint Barton arrives at the mansion to watch out for another crisis if it should arrive. And more heroes arrive. She-Hulk, Julie Power from Power Pack. There's a deep cut. Hercules, Wonder Man, and Lightning. I don't know who Lightning is. There's nothing for them to do, so Hawkeye proposes they play a game of poker. So we see them playing poker for a bit. And this is intercut with the Avengers battling Sin, which is a stalemate, until Wasp flies up her nose, shocking her from the inside. And the momentary distraction allows Photon to clobber her with Cap's shield, fracturing the mask, making it consume Sin from inside out, defeating her, and then the team head home. Back at the mansion, the poker night continues, and then Mike Thrasher, which I kind of geeked out about because I haven't seen New Warriors for years. Mike Thrasher from the New Warriors arrives with a box full of advanced tech costumes for the emergency response Avengers. Handy, he's a rich billionaire, telling them it's okay, I bought enough for everyone. And then the issue ends with the Serpent Society returning to their New York base, revealing that the cast they stole in Germany contains the essence of the demon Mephisto.
Okay. Well, that sounds like hard work, mate.
This feels like Avengers before Bendis took it over, which was not one of my favourite book. Before Bendis started
his old disassembled thing. Yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it?
That made the Avengers a marquee book. which should still be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But anyway,
a lot of them aren't, mate.
I
So,
can't recommend. I can't
thumbs
recommend
down,
this,
yeah?
even though I geeked out a couple of times over some of the deep cut characters. But that's just me.
This was enough.
Yeah, I won't be picking the next one up.
Sorry, mate. You can't win them all.
It's
But
all right.
I think this is what I was saying to you about all these flagship titles, like with Avengers and Spider-Man and everything else.
Oh, I 100% believe that.
They're terrible, aren't they? These books are just terrible. Like, why?
They need the top talent on the top books, like they've got with Uncanny X-Men. That is the exception to the rule.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that at the end of the show. I told you you'll get a surprise this show. Right, moving on. Hold that thought. Speaking of good books, because this one was, I'm going to spoil it right at the beginning, right? Put you all out of your misery. Wolverine #1. Saladin Ahmed and art by Martin Coccolo. So the Wolverine relaunch starts here with a fresh #1. So picture it, Jim. Northwest Territories, Canada. It's snowing. The Wolfpack is running through the snow, but this time they have a new member on their little Wolfpack team. It's Wolverine. He's naked, and the pack has never had it so good since he joined them. They will not go hungry this winter. Why is he there? Well, at the end of X-Men #1, if you remember, he handed in his suit and said he's had enough. He needs some time away, and this is where he's been. He's been hanging out with the wolves. Anyway, as the pack frolics through the woods, Jim, danger awaits, right? It's Cyber, who's an old adversary of Wolverine and has been for many, 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 many years. Right? Cyber was his commanding officer, did some terrible things, eventually led to Wolverine taking one of his eyes out. Anyway, he's souped up with adamantium arms. I think he has some healing abilities of his own, I think. Anyways, he's out for blood, and it's Wolverine's blood. But not before a group of Mounties stumble across him, looking for a naked man with knives. But he kills them all of them barehanded, just because he likes to get his hands dirty. So he put his gun down, he killed all of them. Anyway, meanwhile, Nightcrawler, I know, is also in the woods looking for Wolverine. He wants to save him from himself and bring him back to civilization. And while he's pondering the intricacies of the human condition, Wolverine, having smelled danger, with Cyber and the Mounties, leaps out, takes a swing at Nightcrawler, not realizing it's Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler bamps the fuck out of there, and then Wolverine realizes it's his dear old friend. Sadly, we also see that Cyber killed the entire Wolfpack too, which is sad. Wolverine is sad about it. I was sad about it. Wolverine was sad about it. The pack kind of brought him this freedom from all the bullshit of the X-Men and the real world, right? But Nightcrawler offers him a box, presumably with his costume in it, and he refuses it. That's not him anymore. He doesn't want it. But the world does have a way of dragging Wolverine back into the shit. And after hearing a scream for help and the scent of blood and adamantium in the air, he's back in the blue and yellow, mate. He's back in the blue and yellow. They're racing off, claws drawn, Nightcrawler fast behind him, right? So they reach his campsite. They find all these campers super stressed out. Someone has walked into the camp and brutally murdered one of their friends. Rest in peace, Dave. And they tell Wolverine that guy did it to draw him out, meaning that he went in there to try and get Wolverine to come out and play. So the campers realise, actually, after a little while, that Wolverine and Nightcrawler aren't Avengers, but they're dirty mutants. And they're not happy about it, right? And they tell Wolverine that they hope the guy who did this kills him too. Not very pleasant, but, they're pretty pissed off. Anyway, Wolverine catches a scent of Cyber and leaps towards Nightcrawler to push him out of the way from a sniper attack as a bullet whizzes by and grazes his head, right? So he's in trouble. Wolverine throws him over his shoulder, runs him to safety in this little cave as the campers scatter everywhere. We're looking for somewhere to hide so they don't get shot. Anyway, Wolverine also catches a few bullets along the way, but he shrugs them off, right, because he's Wolverine. But he manages to get Nightcrawler into this cave and patched up. And then he's off to hunt Cyber, who fires a shot somewhere to say, hey, Wolverine, I'm over here, right? Anyway, he does. The two face off, epic battle, and the sounds of adamantium clash through the mountain and they echo down. Ooh, to where we see this little cave where something golden, something very evil has awakened, all right? Anyway, we're back to the fight. The fight's continuing, and Wolverine is really pissed off what he's done to Nightcrawler, so he takes his eye out again, right? And Cyber runs off saying, it's me or your mate, You either got to say, same as Gatchaman, either save Nightcrawler because he's bleeding out, or come and get me. Which one's it going to be? Of course, Wolverine goes off to save Nightcrawler. When he gets back there, one of the campers is actually looking after him, and she's a bit of a bitch too, right? She's a doctor, and she's helping Nightcrawler, and Wolverine thanks her, and she goes, well, I did it because I took an oath. I was like, all right, see you later. So she fucks off, thankfully. and Wolverine realizes it's time to go back home. Time to go back home, do what he does best, and then we skip to a few miles away. All right, to a cave, and inside that cave we see Cyber, and he's not injured anymore. He's standing up, looking well strong. He's well strong, and his silver adamantium arms are now golden, and his eyes are flashing gold. So this thing that was in there, this golden thing, is obviously merged with him. Bit of a rush, mate. It's basically everything you'd want from a Wolverine comic, right? And this is a good example of a creator understanding the character, right? Getting all the elements of that character in the book that make that character the character that you love. It's a big recommend from me. It's not perfect. No book really is. Well, almost. But it's so good, so fun, full of action. Art is absolutely perfect. Everything is displayed as actually as it should. So, mate, that is 4 for 4. However, there is one last thing. There's a QR code, which I thought Marvel was doing away with. So maybe this got made before they did that.
It's only in the first issues of From the Ashes.
Okay,
there's no more after that.
Good. Anyway, it leads to a bonus scene of Lady Deathstrike training. All right. So we're getting to a close full house of books this week. I haven't shit on any. Let's see if that continues after your review of your last book this week, which is Moon Knight.
Yeah, Vengeance of the Moon Knight issue 9. The last issue of Vengeance of the Moon Knight, published by Marvel, written by Jed MacKay, with art by Dev Pranick, with cover art by David Parator. Resurrected by the moon god Khonshu near the end of the Blood Hud event, Mark Spector has now returned to life. Along with his proteges in the Midnight Mission, he vows to continue to protect those who travel at night. The issue starts with a flashback way back to Moon Knight issue 11, with Spectre pleading with Khonshu to get him across town to the Midnight Mission to save Reese from Zodiac. Khonshu tells him there will be a price, and now that debt is due. He must kill the fake Moon Knight, former West Coast Avenger, the Shroud. Hunter's Moon guides Spectre to Shroud, telling him Maximilian Coleridge went wild on the streets, dressed in stolen symbols. Spectre tells him if he doesn't kill his old friend Khonshu, Khonshu will kill Reese in retaliation. Moon Knight finds Shroud in a weakened state after the effects of Blood Hunt because his Dark Force energy powers exploded, and after the events of Blood Hunt, it left him weakened. Mark tells him to put on the Moon Knight mask. He's angered at God. Max is stunned that Moon Knight is back, telling him Tigra showed him he was wrong, but Mark just isn't listening. This is it. Kill or be killed, he states. Max tried to activate his Dark Force powers, but he can't. He coughs, saying he doesn't need his powers, and the two go toe to toe in panel after panel of awesome gritty art by Dev Pranick, with Spectre gaining the upper hand and strangling the life out of the False Knight, telling Hunter's Moon, "It's done, brother. He's dead." Oof. Then we cut to the bar with no name, a resident New York villains pub where the ambience is shattered. Mark is entering in his Mr. Knight suit that Warren Ellis introduced back in his run on the title, telling the assembled rogues, I've been gone, but I'm back because I always come back because I'm Moon Knight. Nothing can kill me, but the guy who stole my name, he can't say the same, so stay the hell out of my territory. He pins the Shroud's Moon Knight costume to the back wall and says, "Don't say I never do anything for you." Leaving the bar. Back in the Midnight Mission, Shroud is revealed to be alive and well after Spectre stopped his heart and then got his doctor to defibrillate it. Hunter's Moon tells Moon Knight he's playing a dangerous game here. Then, sure enough, Khonshu appears, telling Mark this was not the outcome that I wanted, and he threatens Reese's life again. Moon Knight tells him, no more threats. Don't forget, you owe your freedom to the Midnight Mission because they were the ones that busted him out of Asgard. Moon Knight is dead, he smiles, and he settles in his armchair. Long live Moon Knight. And the series reaches its conclusion. Mark Spector will return next month in Fist of Khonshu issue 1. Yeah, an absolutely stunning finale. I actually thought he had gone over the line and killed Shroud. But it's revealed that it's revealed that he's basically just killed that dark version of Moon Knight that pissed Khonshu off so much.
Nice.
Yeah, Jed MacKay's stuff is not always awesome, but his run on Moon Knight remains some of the best Moon Knight stuff I've ever read.
Amazing.
Really enjoyed this one.
I'm glad because I know you like Moon Knight. Right.
Oh yeah,
Jim,
I can't wait for next month.
Yeah, I bet. Are you ready? Uncanny
Yes.
X-Men.
I'm worried now though.
All right, Uncanny X-Men number 2. Gail Simone on the writing duties, art by David Marquise. So, as you remember, we had an absolute stellar first issue. In my opinion, pretty much flawless. Can she recapture that magic in issue 2, Jim? You'll have to find out in a second. Right, so this issue is split between a flashback with Charles Xavier, Wolverine, Gambit, and Rogue meeting a group of young mutants in the woods, and lastly, what's happening at Xavier's former school for mutants, right? It's interspersed as you go through the book. So we start the book with a flashback to a young, still walking Charles Xavier. It's snowing, it's winter, and he's wrapped up warm with a red woolly hat on, keeping his shiny head warm as he reads a book on genetics in the park. A fellow student turns up called Sarah. All right. Long story short, Charles is absolutely smitten with her. She's fun. She's an outgoing American woman, and they end up going for a hot drink, despite Sarah letting him know that she knows what others are saying about him because he's the weird one, right? But it doesn't bother her. Now, we jump back to Louisiana, where Wolverine and the gang are taking a break after their run-in with the Dragon issue 1. So Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue, right? They've acquired the left eye of Agamotto from that dragon. And it seems to be affecting Gambit negatively. Yeah. Anyway, while camping out and having a warm fire and a cold beer, they stumbled across a group of young mutants and a horse, I'll let you know, who need their help. They've come out the woods. Now, Wolverine orders them to keep their distance as he approaches like the biggest looking one. And Rogue comes along with him. Anyway, this guy like puffs his chest up and faces off towards Wolverine, which is a pretty bad idea if you ask me. And before any words can be exchanged, the left eye of Agamotto fires this green beam of energy straight through the chest of the young mutant, and he tumbles to the ground, but he looks like unharmed, and he slugs Wolverine. And I mean, he slugs Wolverine. It looks like he can maybe even take Wolverine, right? And then this big fight between both groups breaks out, and we get like a montage of each of them fighting to basically introduce their powers, right? This is where I started to feel a little bit disappointed. Right. These mutants are super powerful and they need help. They could take on Wolverine, Rogue, veteran X-Men. They need help. Help from who? It's bizarre. Anyway, if Simone wanted to introduce their powers, it could have been done in a much, 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 much better way. They clearly do not need help when they're packing that kind of power. Furthermore, the young mutants, miraculously, as the fight goes on, they seem to be winning, right? Anyway, we hear one of them say during this melee, Mother said all mutants are dirty goblins. Who is Mother? Anyway, before we get an answer, we transition to the former Xavier School for Gifted Children, which has now been repurposed into the state-of-the-art, high-security Grey Melkin prison for mutants, right? Inside the prison, Warden Ellis and Head of Security, Captain Ezra, they're discussing the prison's defences, which seem to be like impenetrable, right? No one's getting into that prison unless they want to. And they're in the danger room discussing how they're going to use this danger room to test prisoners, starting with their latest inductee, Siren. Flashback time with Charles. He's having a nice cup of tea with Sarah at some swanky establishment, and Sarah asks him to remove his woolly hat. She kisses him gently on the forehead. She says she likes him as he is, and he shouldn't be embarrassed by it. Back to the prison. Warden Ellis is warning Siren not to do anything stupid or it won't end well. They tell her that Xavier's dead, which she doesn't believe. And they tell her that Krakoa is gone, and they're offering to fix everything for her if she would accept the prison position of trustee. So come work for me or not, basically, I think is the offer on the table. The book leaps again, and we're back to this big fight as the veteran X-Men seemingly have taken control of the fight. But round 2 is like almost going to be. But then Jubilee appears out of nowhere, fires some silly fireworks, and there's a big hug session. What? Even though they're still technically in the middle of a fight, suddenly everyone's calm. Oh, wow, it's the fireworks. Oh, we'll stop fighting now. Great. Anyway, Rogue tells the young mutants to go sit by the fire so the adults can talk, right? Wolverine states they don't smell right, and that they smell of decay, which is seemingly ignored by Rogue and Gambit, as Rogue asks the boys to go talk to mutant kids and find out what's going on, what's got them spooked. After Wolverine pisses and moans about not being a mentor again, and Rogue and Gambit just start making out, which is just like, what's going on? And then some cringy reaction dialogue from the young mutants. Rogue makes a phone call to the only man she thinks who can help, or only man who will actually answer the phone to her. Suddenly, the teens are all just all cool teen kids, just having fun, right? They introduce themselves, although one of them, Calcio, isn't a mutant. They explain that they are parentless, and a voice called them here, telling them that the assembled X-Men would save them. And they again ask for the X-Men's help. Back to Rogue. She's on the phone to Cyclops. She thinks that Xavier is in Grey Malkin prison and wants to go save him, and whoever else is being locked up there. But Cyclops wards her up, says, no, just hold down, stand down, stand down. Not a good idea. So this book just, for me, just started deteriorating here. After that, she calls Nightcrawler. I think she's putting her X-Men team back together. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but how do we go from Jubilee is back from a recon mission of the prison, which I think we saw in, was it Bloodhunt X-Men Free Comic Book Day? Yeah. Yes, so let's wing it and take on the bad guys with like a ragtag team, Anyway, so what didn't I like? The big fight sign. What is it like a good idea to show the older X-Men, being kept on their toes by the new kids on the block? The fight itself was poorly done. Like I said, it was merely a vehicle to introduce the new characters and their power. It wasn't fulfilling anyway. It ended abruptly, and everyone suddenly went nicey. I was like, okay. Then suddenly it's like, let's attack the prison. It's a bit immature, or rather premature, right? Especially if you've got a wonky Wolverine who's not himself. You've got Gambit who's suddenly not himself because of exposure to the left eye of Agamotto. I mean, where did that come from? Because I don't think it was ever even explained. It was just, oh yeah, he's not feeling good because of this, right? We didn't see anything happen to show that happening. And the team is clearly not ready to take on the prison and its defences. I don't know. There should have been a slow build of her putting the team back together, the perils and pitfalls of that, the prison situation get worse and worse, figuring things out to a point where they could do it. It was a bit of a mess, to be honest. I think Simone was trying to pack so much into one issue, and it suffered for it. However, I've missed out one bit, right? Because I thought this was really cool, and that's the ending. At the ending, we get a big reveal, right? Because the kids say that someone's hunting them, right? And that person, right, is called the Hag. The kids say the Hag is trying to get us. So the end is a big reveal of the Hag standing at the prison, right? Now, she's been effectively a bounty hunter who's going out to capture all these mutants and bring them back to the prison. And when they thank her, they call her Sarah. And you go, oh, it's the woman, that Charles Xavier, this first love before Moira, before all the other loves that he's had. It's her. And I thought that was fucking cool. That was really, really cool. Anyway, look, I didn't hate it. I still absolutely recommend it. It wasn't as good as the first issue, but I still think it's early days and this series has huge, huge, huge potential. So that's what I thought. What about you, Jim? How did you feel?
I think we differ there, man, because I absolutely loved it.
Oh, okay.
I loved, I think I was just so happy to be reading Uncanny X-Men again. And
but is that because all the other X books are so terrible, this one can't help but stand out because it's more than half decent?
They're building towards a bit of a crossover in December, I think. Man.
Yeah, we can tell. Yeah.
It's going to be the attack on Grey Malkin. It's running through X-Men and Uncanny X-Men.
Absolutely. Art was stunning, by the way. I've got to say, the art in this book.
Yeah, David Marquez's artwork again. Beautiful.
Off the charts good. Yeah. All right. Okay. Jimmy, book of the week, mate.
My book of the week is Transformers issue 12 because, my God, how could it be anything else?
Will Transformers ever not be book of the week? Well, I guess we'll find out in the next 12 months.
I guess we will.
We will. Oh, I don't know. I find it difficult this week, mate, because I loved Gatchaman 3. I thought it was great. Time Waits was really good.
This week.
Yeah. but I really did love the book I thought I wouldn't like, and that's Dark Empty Void. So I don't know what to do. You know what? Everyone knows I love Gatchaman, but this book deserves book of the week. Dark Empty Void #1, my book of the week. So we look forward to it. I know. Look, I'm going to love Gatchaman to the day I die. It is my book of the week because I think it's going to be one of those, a blinder, hopefully. What we look forward to next week?
Dark Empty Void. Next week, Jed MacKay's run on X-Men. How have we have 4 issues of X-Men, but 2 issues of Uncanny X-Men? I don't quite understand that.
Maybe they got to catch up, so they're all interlocked.
But the main book I'm looking forward to next week is another book by Daniel Warren Johnson. It's a creator-owned title with him and his friend Riley Rossimo, a fantasy series that Image are calling The Next Saga.
Hold on.
The Moon is
this the same book on my list of looking forward to? We're going to have to do a double, not review. We'll do a double dissection of it afterwards, yeah? So the Moon is following us, yeah.
Daniel Warren Johnson can do no wrong, and everything I've read of his is fantastic. I can't see any reason why this isn't going to be book of the week next week.
I tell you what, you do the you do the breakdown of what happens, and we'll both talk about that one because I think it's going to be good. So again, for me, I was looking forward to that. Gatchaman, more Gatchaman next week. The Galactor 2, and also one of my favourite Batman things in the years has been the Long Halloween series, and we get an issue 0 next week. Other than that, the body trade sounds good. So that's it. Wasn't a bad.
That's like Thompson.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm.
Into the Unbeing.
Looking forward to it. So normally, you get a lot of books I don't like, and I'm terrible at this week. I've loved four of them, and one of them I said wasn't terrible. So it's a first. You can't love them all. Anyway, Jim, we're going to say goodbye.
Indeed.
See you next week, guys.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.